An effective dialogue requires attention and intention. Attention to the people involved and their purposes, an intentional planning process that enables those purposes to be realized. The process of dialogue involves preparing participants for a journey into the new, and a structure that will allow them to think differently, challenge assumptions, and relate to each other in a new way. Regardless of whether a dialogue is one day or a number of years, the dialogues will share common components. Social connection. People have an opportunity to connect with each other, say over a meal. Communication agreements. Advanced preparation of process and participants. Structure. Questions. Entry and exit rituals. And facilitation. All these things come together in the process of dialogue, but it's important to remember that each of these components and the way that they're combined have to be adaptable and flexible to meet the needs of particular situations with particular groups of people. The largest portion of work on dialogue takes place in advance of an actual meeting. As a first step, a series of mapping conversations is held with key stakeholders. And in those mapping conversations, we want to get the answers to some particular questions. For instance, what's the situation now? How did it get to be this way? What's been tried so far to deal with this conflict? Should there be a dialogue? Is dialogue the best match for this situation? Or would another process be better? If a dialogue, who should be involved and what should the focus be? If dialogue looks like the best strategy, a planning team is assembled that represents all aspects of a conflict. And the planning team's job is to work with the facilitator to craft purposes and goals, to design communication agreements, to work together to create questions that will guide the conversation, to write an invitation that will be sent out to prospective participants. When possible, it's optimal that all participants will be interviewed by the facilitator before a dialogue happens. And the purposes of these interviews are several. One is to help participants be clearer about their own reasons and purposes for being involved in a dialogue. To give them the opportunity to reflect on what their experience has been like in the conflict and with the people that they've been involved with, to think about their own reactions and capacities, and to form a bit of a relationship with the facilitator in advance. Now, there are some times when interviewing participants is not possible. There are budgetary limitations, or there are too many people to actually be interviewed, or the time is short and you have to plan quickly. In those instances, there are other means available. Facilitators can use email to communicate with participants, or they can create surveys that people can send in, and the data can be gathered to use as part of the planning process. Careful attention must be paid to the entities that are convening a dialogue. Are they the right people? Are they trusted by all sides? Do you have all the necessary people involved that you should? These questions should be thoroughly investigated and answered before a process begins. On the day of the dialogue, participants share a meal. This is an opportunity for people to break bread together and have conversation about things that are part of their regular human lives, apart from the conflictual issues that they may be there to discuss. Once finished with that meal, we like to bring people into a separate space for the actual dialogue conversation. And that space we've previously arranged so that people are sitting next to each other with differing opinions, pro, con, pro, con, pro, con, not spread apart, as is often the case in some conflictual conversations that are set up. So once people are in the room, the first thing that we want to do is introduce them to the process that they're about to be involved with. And that takes several forms. The first thing is to review the goals and purposes that people have already committed to. Make sure that people are still on board. That moves us into reviewing the communication agreements that have been created in advance, that people are looking at again, and making decisions about whether they still fit, they need to be edited, or more agreements need to be laid in.
So we talked in the phone calls with you about some of the agreements that we proposed for your conversation today, the most important of which is the PASS agreement, or PASS for now. The other one is concerns confidentiality. Actually wrote these down, but I can have them up. And that is, the way we usually think about it is that it's always okay for you to talk about your experience here and what you talk about, and even what other people talk about, as long as you're not identifying who said what. Really keep that here in the room, unless someone gives you permission to say that.
And once we've completed that, we move into posing questions that every person will answer in the group. These questions are designed to bring more information into the room, to stimulate curiosity among the hearers, and to enable people to say succinctly their perspective.
We're going to be doing some introductions, agreements. There'll be 3 questions that Allison and I will be asking that we'll want you to respond to, and actually give you some time to think and reflect about it, and then to speak in a sequential way where each of you will be responding to the same question rather than to each other. The reason that you were given pads and paper is so that you can make any notes that you'd like to, if those will help you, just to make sure that you're getting to the points that you most want to speak about. And then each of you will have up to 3 minutes to speak in response, and we'll go around the circle. To the question, could you tell us about an experience you've had that might help others understand what it means for you to be a woman or a man?
Being a father is the definition for me today for being a man. So it is responsibility, it is role model for the kids, and that's about being a man.
You know, I'm around a lot of women who are my good friends, and I'm around a lot of men. I play music with a lot of men, and there are a lot of women who come see us play music, and I am different in all of those environments. You know, if I'm around a bunch of guys, there are things that guys do that we probably wouldn't do if we were around these women.
Once all of the questions have been posed and answered by everyone in the room, we invite people into a part of the dialogue we call questions of genuine interest. And in this section, people have the chance to ask each other questions that arise from their real curiosity that's been stimulated as they've been hearing people's answers to the other questions that have been posed.
You might ask questions of a specific person, or you might ask questions of the women that are here, or the men, or the whole group, or whatever strikes you, as long as when you respond, you're really responding for just you.
The first step in transitioning from the dialogue space to the space of everyday life again is a closing go-around, where we invite people to take a few moments to reflect on the process that they've been involved in and the effect that it's had on them. To talk about that, and to talk also about what they've contributed, what they've actively done, what they may have held back from doing that enabled things to go as they did. And then to talk about any next steps that may be involved. If there's more than one session, or if people want to continue on, this would be the place to do it before the end of the session.